You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Today is Tuesday, 4th day of March, 2025. Thanks so much for joining us, whoever you are, wherever you are. We're just glad to have you right here, right now. This is a vacation week. The live training room, as you know, it's read-only, no audio this week. Michael's taking a well-deserved, long-overdue vacation, so we decided to run the live training room just view only. You should have your own charts, and hopefully if you remember, you're taking the opportunity to look at your own charts and without the sound of Michael's voice to direct you. It's a great opportunity for you to discover what you still need to learn, what you're still struggling with, what you're still having issues with, and make a list so that when he returns on Monday, next week will be a normal week, you'll have those questions and you'll be much closer to becoming the trader you want to be. Now, normally on a normal week, we do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The live training room, which is from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That's Michael's wheelhouse. When that live training room ends each day, we take a 30-minute break and come back for the afternoon broadcast, this broadcast, which is open to the public. The live training room is reserved for members only and those taking their 1-week free trial. But this broadcast, everybody everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only got to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down to where it says Noon Broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you are done. What will happen going forward is every trading day, you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In that email, there's a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it will automatically log you into our platform. The benefit there is you have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there will be days you're busy, can't join live, but want to get caught up later. And there'll be days when you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join the live. Well, the good news is you can do both of those via our YouTube channel, and it's easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,700 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. youtube.com/CFRN. On a regular week, this is our full afternoon schedule. But with Michael on vacation, this part right here, he normally joins us about 12:50. We won't be doing that because he's on vacation. but we will do the other things we normally do. And so, let's get into our daily devotion. We're on day 5 of 7, how to deal with complicated people. Today's scripture is Matthew 7, verses 1 through 5. And I'm going to share it from the Message translation. Don't pick on people, jump on their failures, criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. The critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. Do you have the nerve to say, "Let me wash your face for you," when your own face is distorted by contempt? It's this whole traveling roadshow mentality all over again. Playing a holier-than-thou part instead of just living your part. Wipe that ugly smear off your own face, and you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. Again, Matthew 7, verses 1 through 5, from the Message translation. So, I'm sure you have complicated people in your life, and maybe you're a complicated person. Most of us are, in one way or another. So what do? We give them the benefit of the doubt. I have a friend who's an identical twin. On more than one occasion, he or his brother has hurt someone's feelings because the person couldn't fathom why a friend of theirs would suddenly pretend he didn't know them. People never say to themselves, "Maybe this guy's a twin." They simply jump to the conclusion that they've been snubbed. This dude is rude. The stories we tell ourselves about other people are up to us. We can excuse people or condemn them. We can be grateful for their good qualities or mad about their failings. We can believe the best or assume the worst. We pick which story to believe, and it's a powerful choice. Indeed, because those stories become the filters through which we evaluate people's words and actions. If I think someone doesn't like me, for example, I'll tend to interpret their behavior through that belief system. I'll notice the things that confirm my suspicions and say, "See, I knew it." Meanwhile, I'll write off the behavior that contradicts it as an anomaly. I can end up ruining a potential relationship simply because I told myself a toxic story about that person. Love rewrites people's stories, specifically the kind of love that comes from God. We need to let love do its work, though. You've probably read 1 Corinthians 13, which is an absolute masterpiece. Here are verses 4 through 7. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Notice how stubbornly love tries to believe the best about people. It is patient and kind. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs, always trusts, always hopes. When God's love dwells in our hearts, it helps us to see people through a different filter, a better filter. It helps us see them the way He sees them. That's the best way. It's the right way, and it's God's way. When people's behavior is confusing or complicated, don't just jump straight to judgment. Instead, try reframing their behavior in a way that is more generous and loving. Are they proud or just confident? Are they rude or just direct? Are they disorganized or just creative? Are they loud or just passionate? Are they a loner? Or maybe they're just lonely. This means thinking about how you think about people. Don't take a picture of people and then hold them to that snapshot for the rest of their lives. Keep your opinion in an open hand and allow God's love to write a better, more accurate story. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to see the complicated people in our world the way You see them. Help us to set aside any bias or prejudice, any offense or judgment, and instead look at them with eyes of love. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Tuesday. Definitely not a turnaround Tuesday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. And I'm sure you've already looked, but it's not a pretty picture today. Or yesterday. It's been a few days. All right, starting in the U.S. with the cash markets or the indices, the Dow is down 653 points. That's 1.5%. The NASDAQ is down 169. That's almost 1%. S&P 500 is down 76. That's well over 1.25%. And the Russell 2000, our man in the street, down 37 points, over 1.75%, almost 2%. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 55 cents, trading 67.81 last. That's a drop of almost 1%, or $560 per contract traded. Gold up $26.10, trading 27.20 last. That's a gain of almost 1%. Silver up 6 cents, trading 32.37 last. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei fell 454 points, 1.25%. The Shanghai actually gained 7 points. The Hang Seng fell 64. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 112. That's over 1.25%. The DAX fell 820 points, over 3.5%. And the CAC dropped 151 points, almost 2%. The only green on the screen was the Shanghai, positive by 7 points. So it was a mixed day in Asia. It was a red day for the UK. And it's a big red radio Tuesday here in the US of A. Let's peek at the news. Tariffs moving forward. Broad 25% tariffs on all imports from America's two largest trading partners, Mexico and Canada, go into effect today, according to President Donald Trump's latest comments. The tariffs were delayed for a month to facilitate talks with Mexico and Canada on addressing drug trafficking and migration at the U.S. border. Mexico has already deployed 10,000 National Guard troops to its northern border, while Canada appointed a fentanyl czar, even though Canada accounts for less than 1% of fentanyl smuggled into the U.S. China also faces a broad 20% tariff on its imported goods, up from 10% imposed last month. Separately, the U.S. has paused military aid to Ukraine following last week's heated Oval Office meeting between Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. And millions of people around the world will celebrate Mardi Gras today. You might say, what's there to celebrate? Well, life goes on. This is what is officially known as Fat Tuesday. But the markets look like a Thin Tuesday. This is the final day. Fat Tuesday is the final day before the Christian fasting and religious observance of Lent. Mardi Gras, which is French for Fat Tuesday, is the culmination of carnival season, which officially starts each year on January 6th, the 12th day after Christmas, and concludes the day before Ash Wednesday. The celebrations include elaborate parades and feasting on traditional foods such as king cake. Mardi Gras has roots in medieval European traditions and evolved from ancient Roman festivals into a global event. In the U.S., the festivities date to 1699, when French-Canadian explorers arrived in the South, though Mobile, Alabama claims the first American Mardi Gras in 1703. New Orleans is now synonymous with the celebration. The city welcomes around 1.4 million visitors each year, generating roughly $900 million in revenue. Today, iconic crews like Rex and Zulu will parade through the city, marking the season's grand finale. A typical New Orleans Mardi Gras generates nearly 100,000 pounds of discarded beads. You know, I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't ever been, I've never been myself. But I'm not sure what the symbolism is behind the beads, but man, they just throw them off the floats and everybody tries to get as many beads as they can, and then they just discard them. 100,000 pounds annually. There's a lot of beads. Wonder where those beads are made. Stocks have struggled to start 2025. Uncertainty over President Trump's tariff policy has put investors on edge. Recent economic data has surprised to the downside. Not even the best year-over-year corporate earnings growth in 3 years has been able to lift stocks out of their slump. With the S&P 500 essentially flat on the year and about 5% off its all-time high, strategists argue a rebound in the economic growth story is key to the major index climbing higher. Goldman Sachs said, "We believe an improvement in the U.S. economic growth outlook will be required to fully reverse the recent equity market weakness. The recent market sell-off has been headlined by a sell-off in many of the momentum stocks of the past several months. Momentum stocks are typically defined as a group of market winners that keep moving higher. Some of this year's momentum leaders like Meta and Palantir have lagged in recent weeks amid the market's tumble. Other high flyers from the past several years like Nvidia and Tesla have also stumbled out of the gate in 2025. The world economy, I can't believe I'm reading this, but you heard me talk about it all last year. This comes from the Wall Street Journal, so I don't know, maybe I was onto something. I kept saying I hope I'm wrong. According to the Wall Street Journal, the world economy could face a crash similar to the Great Depression of the 1930s, unless the U.S. rose back on its plans to impose steep tariffs on imports. Our deep concern is that this could be the start of a downward spiral that puts us in 1930s trade war territory. According to Andrew Wilson, Deputy Secretary General of the ICC, which promotes global business and trade, high tariffs on foreign goods imported into the U.S. in that decade contributed to a damaging global recession. The downturn plunged nearly a third of the global workforce into unemployment and slashed production at heavyweight industrial economies, Germany and the U.S., by half, according to research from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. Now, Besant sees things a little bit differently. Our new U.S. Treasury Secretary projected confidence in Donald Trump's expansive plans to tariff foreign nations, even as the stock market slumped in reaction to the first round of levies on Canada and Mexico. Over the medium term, which is what we're focused on, it's a focus on Main Street. Wall Street's done great. Wall Street can continue to do fine. But we have a focus on small business and consumers. Besant made that statement on Fox News, Fox and Friends this morning. He says we're going to rebalance the economy. To be sure, Besant argued that there would be a transition period as the tariffs kick in this month and next, but he argued that the market sell-off was only temporary. Yeah, we were told inflation was transitory. Let's hope this time Besant has it right. He's not the one who said that about inflation. That was the previous secretary. With the China tariffs, Besant said, I'm highly confident that the Chinese manufacturers will eat the tariffs. Prices won't go up. With Canada and Mexico, I think we're in the middle of a transition. And as you mentioned, Honda moving to Indiana is a great start. Now, Bloomberg sees it maybe a little different. The stocks traded near records despite threats from President Donald Trump's trade policies, sticky inflation, and a suddenly fragile economy. Strategists theorized an invisible hand at work, Trump's. The theory was that the U.S. president's penchant for using the stock market as a report card meant any policy that rattled Wall Street would cause him to quickly ditch the plans. Various Wall Street firms guessed how much pain Trump could tolerate in the S&P 500 index before retreating. That index level became known as the Trump put, in reference to, of course, a put option. But with stocks tanking, wiping out all their gains since the post-election surge, Wall Street pros are starting to question if there's a Trump put after all. If the S&P 500 slides another 10% from here and the president's approval rating takes a hit, that could theoretically result in a Trump put to support the stock market. That's from the president and founder of Emini Wealth Management. He said, "I wouldn't be shocked if there is more pain from here." Yeah, I think it may get worse before it gets better. Now, also from Bloomberg, Russia agreed to assist U.S. President Donald Trump's administration in communicating with Iran on issues including the Islamic Republic's nuclear program and its support for regional anti-U.S. proxies, according to people familiar with the situation. Trump relayed that interest directly to President Vladimir Putin in a phone call in February, and top officials from his administration discussed the matter with their Russian counterparts at talks in Saudi Arabia days later, people said, declining to be identified because of the sensitivity of the issue. Discussions are in their initial stages, and it's not clear whether any talks between the U.S. and Iran would yield any progress. White House officials did not respond to requests for comment. Neither Russia nor Iran have publicly confirmed or denied the request. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said in response to questions sent by Bloomberg that Russia believes that the United States and Iran should resolve all problems through negotiations, and that Moscow is ready to do everything in its power to achieve this. A spokesman for Iran's foreign ministry, when asked if Russia had offered to mediate between Tehran and Washington, said it was natural for countries to offer their assistance. And this, surprisingly from Bloomberg, the market for U.S. initial public offerings should look a lot more like the years prior to the pandemic-fueled boom, according to the head of the New York Stock Exchange. First-time share sales in the U.S. could raise about $50 billion this year, according to the New York Stock Exchange's Group President Lynn Martin at the Bloomberg Invest Conference, which was held in New York today. U.S. regulators should start publishing companies' IPO filings in the coming weeks after a regulatory quiet period that allows firms to get their full-year financial reports audited. Well, you gotta play the hand you're dealt. And this is the hand we've been dealt. Logic 247 or 24/7 around the clock Emini alert service. Over the last 344 weeks, we've issued over 19,000 individual handcrafted alerts. This recap was done at 6:30 a.m. this morning. Valerie will update it, of course, this afternoon, as she does. But at the time of the recap, since the markets opened Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we'd issued a total of 20 alerts Still waiting on the outcome of 8. That gave us 12 actionable alerts, of which 2 or 17% would have been stopped out based on market structure and a very simple process that we teach all of our passport holders in their one-on-one mentoring sessions. Now, over the last 344 weeks, as I said, we've issued over 19,000 individual alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out, again, based on market structure. So we're sitting at 17% on a bad week. Today's Tuesday, and we're real close. In fact, I think one market in particular, we've already hit the lowest weekly trading zone. Now, when we hit the highest or lowest weekly trading zone by Tuesday, now this is over the last 15 years of the weekly trading zones, what we've seen the majority of the time is that by the end of the week, price will be at the other end of the spectrum. That would be quite a rally, and while we've seen it happen repeatedly again and again and again, boy, I just don't know this time. Everybody's just in such a dither over the tariffs. I mean, you got to give them a chance and see how it works out. Like I say, last year I kept saying we're headed for the Great Depression, but then Trump got elected, and I thought, wait, there's hope. Hope is here. But after 4 years of, in my opinion, poor government, you can't exactly turn things on a dime, so we'll just have to see. We'll be patient. We'll see what happens. We'll pray for America. We'll pray for our government officials and other world leaders, and hopefully we'll make America great again. Now, the logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe, so our day session is their night session and vice versa. The purpose of the logic alerts is really to help you learn how to read a chart. If you're going to be a trader, you need to be able to understand what the chart's telling you. You want to get to the point where you can look at any chart of any market, stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETFs, and instinctively know what the next high probability move is. You should be able to spot potential resistance, potential support, and see the windows of opportunity in between with what we teach you and the use of our humble set of indicators. Now, long before we had Logic 247, over 19,000 alerts ago, a lot longer, we had the original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. They're different. Number one, they don't come out around the clock. They're posted as a static report shortly after the Globex open, and on the days when I'm able, 5 minutes before the Globex open. So everybody knows today's the Tuesday session. But unless you trade futures, you probably don't know that the Globex session for the Tuesday session starts Monday night, just like tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. That will be the beginning of the Wednesday session. So last night, 5 minutes ahead of the open, all of our members and trial members had all of these targets. The S&P, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. If you're a member or trial member, make sure you read this information here. It's important that you understand it. If you have questions, then just ask. All right. So let's go take a look at just how bad it is. Now, we kind of knew this was coming, or felt pretty certain it was, because of the way the market was structured. We had this double top up here. See, this is the all-time historic high, and we had this double top. Okay, blue and climbing turned to red and falling, and when we got that bearish cross, that was kind of a done deal. Now, the step line started to angle right as if it were going to cross red falling, but it hasn't. In fact, it's kind of straightened back out. Today, we spike the 38% fib retracement. Here, let's do that. There we go. Okay. So we hit the 24 a number of times and bounced. We got close to the 38. We hit the 38 once. We got close yesterday, but today we just blew right through it. And we blew through this trend line. I mean, yesterday I talked about the importance of this 50% fib retracement and the fact that there's a bullish cross right there. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support. So I almost feel like saying, well, let's just rip the band-aid off, get to the 50, get to the bullish cross, and then get that rally. I mean, we got a tremendous wall of worry we got to climb here. But once everybody decides, oh, it's going to be okay, well, we're not going to go up as fast as we came down. Prices fall faster than they rise. It takes financial commitment for price to rise. It does not take financial commitment for prices to fall. When the institutional traders who move price hit pause on the buy side, price just naturally deteriorates. And so, I mean, these are brave souls here that are bidding this back up after what we've seen over the past, well, going back to, really made the turn, yeah, you could call it February 20th or 21st. That's a big drop. It will take a lot of work to overcome the step line, red and falling, the 24% fib retracement, and the BBC. But this could be the low of the day, 57.44. Now, I start out every day with a daily chart because I encourage everyone, whether you trade futures, stocks, crypto, Forex, whatever, spend 2 minutes with the daily chart each day to get the big picture view. Institutional traders, the ones who actually move price because of their account size and the size they trade in, they look at daily, weekly, and monthly charts the way you and I look at 30-minute charts, 5-minute charts, tick charts, and range charts. Again, it has everything to do with account size. So by spending 2 minutes with the daily chart of whatever you're about to trade, you can see what the institutional traders are up to, and you're able to identify major areas of support and resistance. that you aren't able to identify on the smaller time frames. Try it for a month. See if it doesn't help you a little bit. Now, all alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. Okay? The vertical line separates today, Tuesday. Here's Monday. Back over here is Friday. Now, these are this week's weekly trading zones. 5805/06. Still got one more down at 5640/41. Now, as price fell, see how the step line crossed red and falling? And now red and falling is directly below price. You got price, the step line, red and falling. Right there, when price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance. When price drops to a zone, we expect support. We've published the zones every Monday for the last 15 years, as of last December. Now, you'll notice over here we had a bullish cross last Friday. And you see how the market found support right at that area yesterday. Bounced us up to the zone, which we expect to be resistance, and it was. Sent us back down to the zone, but we just kept going. We didn't quite make it all the way to this zone yesterday. We rallied into the close yesterday, and we opened right here. Now these targets, again, were out 5 minutes ahead of the open. So we opened here, ran up to the zone, dropped to the step line, didn't quite make it to the target. We eventually made it to the target. Red and falling turned to blue and climbing. That pushed us up to the zone and the BBC, that's resistance times 2. And then down we go to the short target. As long as we're below the BBC, we anticipate lower prices. When we're above the BBC, that's the green line, we anticipate higher prices. BBC just stands for bull-bear cross. That's the green line. Okay. Now markets are fractal in nature, and the BBC is as well. You can put it on a 30-minute chart, a 5-minute chart, a daily chart, a weekly chart, a monthly chart. The results you get are the same, but relative to the time frame that you're looking at. In other words, you don't get daily results off of a 1-minute chart or vice versa. So yesterday, price came back to the BBC, sent us up to the zone at 59.99/6000. And then we dropped to the zone, support, bounced us back up into resistance, back to support, back to resistance, and then that bullish cross pushed us back up to resistance. And here's where we ended the session. You have to go way back to see where that support came in. But we opened here, hit the zone, resistance times 2, back to the target. Now only one of 3 things happens when price hits a weekly trading zone. 70% of the times, consolidation. 20% of the times, rejection. 10% of the times, the slice. That's when a 30-minute candle slices through a zone like it's not even there. When that happens, price will typically retrace to the zone it sliced through and continue in the direction of the slice. This movement was spread out over 2 30-minute candles. So that's not a perfect example of a slice, but you get the idea. So we've traded below the second to lowest zone. We're now pulling back up. We've got the zone as resistance, and just above that the BBC. It would be quite a feat to see us overcome the BBC and get a move that takes us back up to at least this zone at 84/85. On the way down, you've got potential support here and here. On the Dow, here's where we opened last night, and we dropped right to the short target, and then just consolidated sideways. We did hit the BBC here, resistance, that sent us below the target. Now this slice, right, kept going. Price is retracing back up to this area, but that's resistance times 2. So we very well may see another leg to the downside. This is the lowest weekly zone this week, 41,885/41,890. On the Russell, I mean, look at this drop yesterday. Incredible. Here's where we opened last night. We dropped, but red and falling turned to blue and climbing. So we just kind of consolidated sideways till we hit the London Open, and then we finally hit the target, the short target. See, everything's been below the BBC since yesterday at 10:30 on the Russell. So we've had a leg and a retracement, a leg and a bit of a retracement, mostly downside. Now we're up against resistance. Big question here. Can price overcome the BBC? Now when we have price trade through a short target like this, when price reverses, that short target could become potential resistance. See, on this candle it was support, but on the way back up it could become resistance. So the pullback to the BBC holds more often than not. And so far this is definitely holding. But you've got potential support here. You've got potential support here. And this is the lowest weekly trading zone for the week, 2061/62. On the NQ, here's where we opened last night. Red and falling turned to blue and climbing, took us up to the BBC, pull back held, sent us down to the short target. Support will always send the market looking for resistance. Resistance will send the market looking for support. We consolidated here at the zone. We got one more zone down below. So we got a leg, we got a retracement. Now notice on this one, red and falling is turned to blue and climbing. So that gives me a little bit of confidence that we just might start to move higher on the NQ. That's one of your first clues right there. If we continue down, that's potential support. That's potential support. Then you've got support here, and then at the low of the session. Crude oil. Here's where we opened. We dropped to the short target, consolidated sideways, and we got a leg, and then a retracement, pull back held, another leg and a retracement, pull back held, Now, what's happened with crude is what I was just showing you on the NQ. Red and falling turned to blue and climbing. We got back above the BBC, and we ran into resistance at the short target. If we can overcome that, then we've got potential resistance here, here, and then of course at the next zone overhead. This is the lowest weekly zone this week for crude oil. Gold, here's where we opened last night, dropped to the BBC, consolidated for hours, and then an hour ahead of the London Open, we took off, traded through the weekly zone. We sliced it. We didn't pull back. We finally pulled back way over here. Question is are we going to continue in the direction of the slice? This resistance we just had right here lines up with this. Then you've got here, here, and here. Now, on gold, we've still got one more weekly zone overhead. Silver, here's where we opened last night. Got below the zone, and we didn't quite hit the target. The low was 32.06. We missed it by a penny and a half. Only takes 2 pennies to get your goal for the day on silver. Then red and falling turned to blue and climbing, took us back up all the way to the long target. And then we took out yesterday's high by a little bit, but it was short-lived. We came back to the short target. Support has now bounced us up to the BBC. Resistance. If red and falling turns to blue and climbing, there's a good chance that we overcome this long target and possibly even make a run at the high of the session. So that's it for this droopy Tuesday. Not a pretty picture. But we know that's how markets work. I mean, it's been such a long time since we had a 50% fib retracement on the daily chart. I know nobody wants to hear it, but coming down here, hitting that thing solid and getting a massive bounce, that would be good. That would turn some of those frowns on Wall Street upside down. We'll see. We shall see. To become a member, send an email to support@cfrn.net. In the subject line, put "I would like to become a member." In the body of the email, put your name, put your phone number. We're not going to call you, but we'll send you an email that explains what it means to become a passport holder. And there'll be a link in the email that you can click to actually become a member. As a passport holder, you're going to get 2 hours of live training every trading day. 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Every trading day. With the exception of this week. Again, Michael's taking a long overdue, well-deserved vacation. Going back to 2008, I think it's been. It's a long time to go without a vacation. On top of the live group training, which is an interactive environment every day, you also get private one-on-one mentoring, no extra charge. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETFs. Doesn't matter, price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. As a passport holder, you get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock, the concierge trade alerts the second they're published each evening. Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you get the weekly trading zones, and you're able to attend the members-only workshop every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Yes, Dan, the indicators do run on TradingView. You just have to turn the ribbon on. You're welcome. Just send your email here, support@cfrn.net. And again, we'll be back to a normal weekly schedule beginning on Monday. So, let's wrap it up with our good word for the day. Being friends with God. Exodus 33:11. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. When you talk to a close friend, you're relaxed, trusting, unguarded, and open. There's no need to watch your P's and Q's. You can express how you feel without fearing you'll be judged or rejected. That's how Moses and God talk to each other, like two friends, trusting and transparent. They said what they felt and thought straightforwardly, not in churchy language or religious jargon. The Israelites had made a golden calf to worship, and God was angry enough to disown them and choose a new people. Moses had a crisis on his hands, and he engaged with God. In a serious discussion. In essence, what he told God was, "You see it one way, Lord, I see it another. And your perspective is making me very uncomfortable." Sounds like a candid exchange between friends. Moses wasn't being disrespectful. He's being upfront and honest with God. They knew each other well enough to speak face to face as one speaks to a friend. Do you pray like that? No posturing, just saying heart to heart what you want to say to your friend, God. That's the kind of relationship God had with Moses. And it's the kind he wants to have with you. Religious cliches and the usual request lists miss the opportunity to connect deeply and personally with God. Instead, open up with him. Get down to the nitty-gritty. Tell him where you're coming from and what you really feel, think, and desire. Then, and here's the important part, listen to his perspective. In other words, be a friend with God. And that's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.